right, so we're going to solve questions together. There's a couple new people, totally okay. What we're going to do is we're going to solve questions in a very methodical manner. We're going to read the last sentence first. It's going to frame our mind. Like, hey, this is what we're looking for. Cool. Then we're going to go back up to the top. Nice, easy for context. We're going to look at it that way. Okay. And then what we're trying to do is figure out what the real problem is, what context really matters, and what would we do? You know, you don't need to go crazy, but kind of put yourself in the game. Then and only then go to the answers. Don't go to all of them, go to one. Why do you like A or why do you not like A? Just tell me why. If you don't know exactly why, do your best. If it's wrong, it doesn't bother me. And so go to each one. We'll make a decision together. Everybody else put your answers in chat. There'll be a helper to help out the person that's leading. And just for fun, Eva, why don't you take this one and we'll have a helper named Theo.
Okay. How should the project manager approach this challenge? A company is struggling to define the scope of a new project that has multiple phases with a high level of dependency between the phases. How should the project manager approach this challenge? So when looking at this, when it speaks of phases, it makes me think agile.
Okay.
But honestly, I'm not sure. And I'm thinking that it says define the scope of a new project that has multiple places. So it sounds like we're in planning.
Yep. Early on. And yep, technically we plan in both Agile and Waterfall. I got to figure out what we're going to do. It's just the depth and the level. Yes. So you're nailing it. Keep it rolling.
So let's see, contract with a third-party company that specializes in helping businesses define scope on large-scale projects. That's a no for me.
What about it seems bad? Because I think you're on a great vein here. Like, what about it's bad?
In the early planning stages, contracting with a third-party company, that's usually done during procurement, for one. Okay, and two, correct. I know very few companies that contract out the business requirement piece.
Okay, cool. Because we want it to be like an internal.
Exactly.
Like
it's an
something
internal
like we handle.
thing.
Yeah, and then like as a general rule guideline for you, you're on a good path. We want to try to solve problems inside before we go outside. And so like first we're like, oh, we're gonna go out and hire it. Dude, you haven't even thought about it. Like you're just like scared. No big deal. So you're on a perfect roll. So bye-bye, A. Good to be.
Okay. Work with project stakeholders to recommend an iterative approach that will then help to define the project scope. I will take a look at that. B, because like I said, I mentioned that I think it's agile. And agile is you can discover requirements while you're in the phases. C, construct a project management plan that provides extra time within the schedule, then seek to revise the scope of work. C is a no for me, because if you're already within a schedule and you're revising the scope, that goes into a change request type thing. So C does not seem like a good idea for me.
And let's also think, okay, keep going. You're doing great. You're doing great. Like,
okay, suspend final delivery dates for the project in order to have time to revise the schedule. Once there's declared, D is definitely out.
What about it seems like so bad?
Suspend final delivery dates for scope, that doesn't make sense at all. So I'm looking at B and C. Within Agile, C could be an option, but I guess I would rule it out, because I don't think you, as a PM or as a product owner, Scrum Master, PO, I don't think you would create a project management plan that actively manages or seeks to have a change in the scope of the work. Even though we know that it's going to happen because you have unknowns, right? It just doesn't seem like that's something that you would do in project management.
Okay, that seems reasonable. All right, so you're on final answer?
I'm on B.
He was on B. Theo, and then I'm going to go to Rosalia.
Yeah, Scott, I definitely agree with Eva. With A, just using PMI logic,
Oh God, hold on. Ain't a PMI logic. It's like everybody logic and nobody's logic. Keep going. Yeah, Scott.
But typically, we're not trying to bring in third parties unless it's a dire situation, and we're still in the planning phase. So bringing in a situation where it's going to cost us anything doesn't make any sense. C feels like you're working backwards. We're already within the project and going down the schedule, but then we have to go back to revise the scope. That just feels out of sorts. And then, like she was saying with the suspending the final delivery dates, again, that's also, you're working backward to get clarity on the scope, but then also that just feels way out of whack. So the only logical answer that left is B.
Okie dokie. Awesome. Rosalia, what are you thinking? What jumped out at you, if you don't mind, ma'am?
Hi, everyone. The thing is, I've just started studying, so my knowledge is so poor that...
That's all right.
But anyway, I would have gone for letter C, which is, then it's obvious that I didn't understand much so far. No, the idea is that with the knowledge that I have gathered until now, I didn't know that you can involve the stakeholders to define the project scope. It doesn't necessarily make sense to me, but if you consider that the stakeholders are also other teams and you can, perhaps it's B, I don't know.
Okay, that seems reasonable. So let's talk about it. You're doing great. You're doing great. So let's talk about it. The one thing you said was, didn't know, it's totally okay, that you could involve, as a project manager, you could involve other stakeholders to help define the scope, or in simple terms, what we're going to do. Like, hey, so if you and I had a project to do, I don't know, we're building a product or something, like a new pair of shoes, whatever it is. And we were unsure of exactly what we deliver, what they would look like, the size, blah, 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 that stuff, colors, whatever. It's a weird example. We could either do it like you and me in a room being super duper smart by ourselves, or we could bring in smart people from all over the place that could give us insights into the shoes or whatever I'm made up. Would it make more sense if we're like, we're not exactly sure what we're going to deliver or what's right? Would it be better for you and I to be super duper smart by ourselves, or to bring in smart people that might be able to provide insights for us?
To bring in smart people.
There you go. And then the other thing is, if we look at this and it's not shoes, it's something really big. And we're like, oh my goodness, we have to design this entire manufacturing plant with all these different thingy things. Oh my God, how am I going to do it? I could just feel like the walls crumbling in on me. How am I going to plan this all? And then you might look at me and say, hey, Scott, we don't have to do it all at once. We got to do the left side of the plant. Then we got to do the right side of the plant. We're going to make the hot dogs and we're going to package the hot dogs or something like that. So let's plan the one side and then get that going. And then let's do the other side. Then I might say, that's a really good idea. So what we're essentially doing is we're creating like an iterative approach, like we're segmenting it, chunking it up. So we redefine the problem so it's smaller. We can get our head about it. We can nail it down. Plan that scope, bring in the right smart people. And then once we get to the right point, we can start saying, oh, we got to do this other thing. Cool. Now that we understand how we built the left side of the plant, the hot dog making side. If y'all got hot dogs in Italy, I don't know. I got better stuff. But like, we get the right side. So like we're working with the stakeholders to recommend an iterative approach to, hey, we're going to do this in chunks. So we're not going to have to figure everything else out. Is that I could be totally off base. You can tell me, Scott, I don't understand. I still don't understand. And that would be an okay.
It's not. So what got me, Scott, and everyone else is it had nothing to do with agile. Defining the scope, period, requires stakeholders.
Yes, ma'am.
So like, how can you do it without stakeholders? So that was the only answer that had stakeholders mentioned. Okay. So that I didn't even have to do the process of elimination and read all the answers. When they said define a stakeholder, the scope of a new project, I looked with the first time I saw stakeholders, and then when I didn't see it again, I knew that was the answer. So I don't know if that's gonna mess me up on the exam by taking.
We're getting there. We're getting there. We're gonna be all right. So what if C said construct a project management plan that provides stakeholders extra time
right
within the schedule? Then I exploded your method. But like
nope. Then I would have went through
then
B and C.
Okay.
But no
And
other.
what about C is worse?
I didn't like C because it said provide extra time within the schedule.
Yes,
then seek to revise the scope of work.
Yes, ma'am.
Who has extra time? Like, what do they mean by extra time? I didn't get that. Do the schedule change? And yeah, and then construct a project management plan. Like, they're not even there yet because they're trying to just define the scope.
Right. You're right. We're not even to the schedule until we define what we need to do.
Right.
Like, and so if it's like we're building, like if we have a new car coming out,
right?
Like there's the design, there's like the marketing, there's like the production, there's like the, putting it out in the world and handling warranties and issues and stuff like that. It's a big deal. And so if we try to manage it, yep, go ahead.
Multiple phases I didn't associate that with being agile because you could have multiple phases in all life cycles. Can't you?
Well, here's the thing. It doesn't have to be agile. No. This doesn't have to be agile.
Agile, right.
Iterative in a sense can just be phased, chunked up.
Got you.
So it doesn't have to be agile. How we do it inside, we could do agile, waterfall, whatever. But it's just saying, how do we segment it up?
No, right. Where it says multiple phases up in a question.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
Yeah, okay. I didn't associate those two words with the type of project we were doing. And that's how it just came to be real quick. And I need that real quick because I get stuck on questions.
It's all right. So we can, knowing that natural tendency, we can just say, hey, we're going to distill down what we think is important, what we think, and try to make calculated decisions. It's just going to take a teensy bit of time, but you'll be all right. All right. So Harik, what jumped out at you? What's a learning that you think that other people could or should distill out of this? Anything?
Well, for me, it was doubtful about having agile or waterfall thing because in the question, I don't see anywhere that it says this is a agile project. But as far as waterfall, if I have any question about the scope, the first thing is that calling all the key stakeholders, contacting them, and sit down and verify the scope.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
So that's why B is more looking to me more right.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, and so you guys are all right there, the iterative part of it. So really, really great that you all identified that like stakeholders are key. We're having an issue with struggling to define the scope, trying to figure out what are we actually trying to accomplish here. And if we think about that, if we have a big, like we're trying to do a big thing, and it already says that it has multiple phases, like design the car, build the car, put it out in the world, market it, whatever. Like the way we want to do it, whether it's waterfall or agile, is we want to just compartmentalize, chunk it up so that we think about distinct sections, whatever is most close to us and most important now. That's essentially what agile, now this can be a waterfall or agile project, it doesn't matter. It's saying they're saying an iterative approach, meaning do a little bit, do more, but do it in chunks as you move through. That's what it's saying. Just to maybe help is that like in agile, normally in waterfall, difference in agile and waterfall. In waterfall, we're going to do all the planning up front. But if we go, okay, well, instead of all the planning up front, maybe we can do most of the planning up front. If we do half of it for a certain section, then we're going in for molding or like evolving from waterfall traditional way up front planning everything. So like an iterative one where we're going to do it in chunks. Then if we want to go even deeper, we would go into like an agile methodology where it's like, hey, we are going to just plan the next couple weeks. And it's going to be really, really fluid and flowing, iterative, if you will. So it's just all the planning shoot to like chunks, to like minor chunks, to littler chunks. All we're doing is like, how can we compartmentalize our mind, compartmentalize it to plan? That's all the different methodologies do. It's just
Got
like,
a quick question.
Yeah.
Had question, answer A said something like, no, if the question says something like, how should the organization approach this challenge? Could A have been a correct answer?
I don't believe so. Not as a first like swing at it.
Not at the best answer.
Yes, ma'am. And I think like internally you would say like, hey, the big problem is that we have a big project and we're having a difficult time defining what the scope is.
Mhm.
Okay. So I think the first, like, what would the third party do? They'd probably come to you and say, well, what you need to do is chunk it up into iterations, plan those, and learn as you move through. And also you owe me $1 million. And so like, I think we should just do what we think is right.
Okay.
Segment the project into iterations, use an iterative approach, plan what we can and learn from it. So I don't think the first thing is like hire a person. It's probably not going to be the first answer.
Okay.
Okay, dokie, you're doing good. Let's keep it rolling.